Hey everybody, it's Keough here, and I want to give you a sort of a rundown of how my meet went. I did a meet this past Saturday, NASA Iowa States, and I ended up competing in full power, and I want to tell you what went on with that and what my thoughts on the meet were. I'm now a couple of days removed, so so I feel like I can start speaking about the meet honestly and objectively without being so emotionally tied to what went down. So I ended up going 5 for like really weird numbers. I went 5 for 7 with two scratches for a 13 to 22 pound total. My numbers were a 446 squat, a 303 bench, and a 573 deadlift. I'll just basically take you through the meet and talk to you about exactly what happened, because I don't have a lot of good video. I have my squat opener, my bench opener, and my 2 deadlifts, but I'm missing my missed attempts. I'm missing my 303 bench. So it was a crazy day, and we had some people from our team and some people surrounding our team who helped out with video, and they did a fantastic job. It was just, we had 2 platforms going at once and 13 lifters, and there's just no way it's all going to get recorded. So anyway, I started out squatting, warmed up entirely without wraps, felt pretty good. Got out on the platform for the first attempt, 446. The reps went on just fine. My attempt was supposed to be 457, and I wrote 207.5 on my scorecard, and they read it as 202.5. So I kind of opened 11 pounds lighter than I wanted to, and I didn't realize this. Talk about a kick in the nuts. I didn't realize this until after when I got home and I checked the scores that actually I had opened lighter than I anticipated. So anyway, I ended up opening at 446. The weight felt okay. It didn't feel fantastic. It wasn't like the fastest rep I've ever done with 446. And this was a weight that I had done for a 6-rep set not too long ago, maybe 3-4 weeks before the meet. So considering that, it didn't feel great, but I stuck with my plan and I went up to 513 anyway, and my reps felt good until about the very end. I'd say after that set, walking away, I started to feel something. Putting them on for 513, I could definitely feel it more, and walking up to the bar with 513 for my second attempt, I could definitely feel my injury a little more. Came down with 513 and just kind of got crushed by it. I didn't really make it out of the hole. The weight felt like 1,000,000 pounds in the hole, and it wasn't the fault of my injured leg. It wasn't the fault of the weight cut or anything like that. It was simply just I think a matter of me not being able to train my squat how I wanted to the last few weeks, losing some of the gains that I had gotten from training with very high volume for a span of 8-9 weeks, and I just wasn't able to sustain that, and I wasn't able to bring that strength and to show it off at this meet, and my squat regressed a little bit, and 513 was basically an unmakeable attempt for me. And so obviously I was really disappointed with that. I wanted 513. That would have set me up for a pretty good day had I hit that. You know, it's going to be really hard to recover in a meet where you basically squat 74 pounds below below your best squat in training, and that's what I did. And it's not like I'm like an 800-pound squatter. I'm a 500-pound squatter, and or at least I was. I don't know if I still am, but so it kind of sucked coming away from squats with basically what's 85% of my 1-rep max for that training cycle. But you know, I decided I wouldn't use my injury as a crutch. I wouldn't back out of the meet at that point. My leg was was starting to bother me, and it was starting to tighten up, but I could still move on it just fine. I could still fully extend my knee, and so I was still walking pretty good, so I figured I'd just keep going. I knew I was going to be able to bench on it. Benching went a little better. I felt pretty solid warming up. Again, not fantastic, but certainly not bad. Open 276, I handled that very well. Was really having a hard time getting set up on the bench, and I was kind of a victim, I think, of my own success in training. I benched so much. You know, I ran the small love junior. I ran it 2 times, and just benched a lot the entire cycle, even when I wasn't running that, and got really accustomed to doing certain things on the bench, pinching the bench with my thighs, setting up in a certain way, and when I got on a bench that had different dimensions to it, which was a little lower to the ground, which was a little wider, maybe not even a little wider, I'd say substantially wider, I had a hard time adjusting to it. The first one I really didn't get set up like I wanted, but was still able to handle it easily. Went up to 303, bench 303 really without much difficulty, but again, I couldn't get my arch how I wanted it. I couldn't get set up how I wanted it. The fact that the bench was wider was that was causing my feet to be positioned wider, and you know, I couldn't pinch my legs in close like I was doing in training, and so that was kind of screwing me up. And a call for 314, decided not to do 308 or 309 or whatever it was. I decided at this point my total was going to be lousy, so I might as well go for some real PRs for me, not just a meet PR, which 303 was, and missed it maybe 2 inches off my chest. So so it's unfortunate, but I think if anything for me, it might be a good idea to every so often get to another gym, experiment with other bench apparatuses, learn to be able to adjust my technique on the fly to suit other conditions. There is there is something to be said for being consistent in training, but sometimes consistency in training can become a limiting factor. It can become something that holds you back, because you become so intent on doing things in a very particular way that when a new variable is introduced, it makes things difficult, and that can be the difference between making or missing a max lift, and that's what happened to me on my bench. So I got to deadlifts, was still feeling okay with my leg, felt good enough to pull. A little bit of pain when I started warming up, but the speed felt pretty good warming up. I'd say up until about 365, 405, and then things just really started slowing down for me in a hurry, and I wasn't pulling through weights like I usually do. Opened at 518, and that's usually an opener that I crush, but you know, I wasn't able to produce the sort of speed off the floor that I usually am. In other words, I didn't feel like I was pulling through the weight like usual, and actually at the end I was like convinced that that we weren't using a deadlift bar, that we were using some sort of squat bar or something like that for the meet, and only after watching the video I realized, you know, I'm just being an idiot by blaming the bar. It's not the bar, I just couldn't generate any power off the floor. But I stuck with my plan. I went 573 for a second attempt because that was my plan, and was able to get that after a grinder of a lockout at the top, but felt the entire time like I was going to get it, and I did, and that was great, because that's another meet PR for me. Scratched my third, decided with my leg I wouldn't do a third, decided with how 573 felt that 579 was almost guaranteed to be a missed attempt for me, and that's not me getting in my own head, or me being overly dismissive and wimping out or anything like that. I know my strength curve, and I know what I have left, and again, it's not a defeatist attitude. I could go in there and fail it for you. I just know what's going to happen, and I decided it wasn't worth going and trying to pull it just to miss it. So I put everything into 573 and was able to get it, and that's again a meet PR for me. But it didn't move quite as smooth as I wanted to. But ultimately because it's a meet PR, and it was one of, I guess, the brighter spots of this meet. So anyway, silver lining here was I hit a meet PR on my bench and a meet PR on my deadlift. I guess the disappointing part of the meet, well, also silver lining, I made it through the meet, which I gave myself a 50-50 chance of being able to do. The downside to the meet was that I totaled 1322, which is 33 pounds below what I totaled in October, which is pretty bad. I got to work to rectify that. I will do that in July. I think I will try and rebuild my squat, rebuild my bench, try and build them back up, and try and really just peak properly for this July meet, rather than run myself ragged and start getting hurt. So my goals for this training cycle are, number one, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Remember some of the good things that I accomplished in this past training cycle, and try to take those principles and apply them to this upcoming training cycle. Be a little bit more moderate in my approach. I don't have to kill myself in training. That's not to say that I shouldn't be training hard, or I shouldn't be training with greater frequency and volume, but I'm going to be a little bit more moderate in my approach. I'm also going to make sure that I get healthy and I stay relatively healthy. I'm going to try and be more proactive about backing off when I need to, because I don't want for something more serious to come up, and then for me to have to really take time off a lift, because that's kind of what happened this time, and I detrained a little bit heading into this meet, and you know, a few weeks of not being able to squat much, and suddenly 513 is not a makeable attempt for me. So I'm going to try and learn from that. I'm going to try and do a lot of the good things that I did last cycle, do a lot of rapless squatting, do some beltless squatting, get a lot of volume back in on my bench press. I have this weird hitch on my deadlift. It's almost like I hit a wall somewhere, I'd say 2 or 3 inches above my knees, and part of that is a mechanical issue, and part of that is a strength issue, and I need to start focusing on both of those. So I'm going to develop a strategy for trying to do that, and that's probably going to involve, number one, more deadlifting, and number two, more deadlifting with some sort of accommodating resistance, so that I can make my lockout more difficult, and I can work through that point, I think, more and more often. I think I just need more reps through a semi-difficult to a difficult lockout in order to start working out that like wall that I hit a few inches off of my knees. And it's time for me to work on it, because I saw the video of 573, and I am not to toot my own horn, but I'm a 600-pound deadlifter up to about my knees, and I'm not a 600-pound deadlifter past there. So I need to fix that. And I'm gonna make an attempt to try and fix it for July, and then I'm gonna analyze the results and decide what I'll do from there. But I'll set aside a plan for doing more pulling off the floor, not doing as much deficit pulling, even though that's, I think, given me slow, steady progress in the past. I'm gonna try and maybe transition away from that and really just focus on trying to, again, rebuild my lockout. Done this a number of times before, tried a number of different things, and it hasn't worked yet, but I'm going to try something new, and hopefully that works. So anyway, I was disappointed in not getting 1400. That was my goal for this meet, and it didn't happen for me, but I will live to compete another day. I did the very best that I could, both in training and in competition, so I guess I have nothing to really be upset about. Again, I did my best in the meet, and I did my best in training, and it just didn't work out for me, and I will try to learn from this experience and get stronger. And my plan is to start training immediately. I start training today for my July meet, so middle of July, I'm looking to break that 1355. I know I can break that number if I just prepare properly, and then I'll hopefully build up for something at or over 1400 in October. So anyway, the journey continues. When I tried for 1300, it took me, I think, 3 missed attempts at it before I finally got it, so it took me about a year. It's my first missed attempt at 1400, take another shot at it at some point soon, and we'll see what happens. Keep following. I really appreciate it. Keep checking in. I will have more videos for you very soon.